American songwriter, we had the opportunity to talk to Rob Mays.
Adam was able to talk to Rob Mays over the phone. Rob Mays is an actor and country musician. Rob talked about growing up in Cleveland and how he got into music and acting. While in lockdown from the COVID-19 pandemic, Mays wrote and recorded a series of songs in his living room. Make sure to check out Songs from the Sofa, a quarantine project.
And make sure to check out our YouTube channel and Facebook page at Bringing It Backwards, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bringing Back Pod.
We'd appreciate your support if you follow and subscribe to our podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts.
We're Bringing It Backwards with Rob Mays. Hey, Rob, how's it going?
Hey, how are ya?
Good. This is Adam. Thanks for doing this.
Adam, good to hear you.
Thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so this podcast is about your journey in music and how you got to where you are now.
Very good.
And we'll talk about the songs from the sofa a little bit as well.
Fantastic.
Cool. So why don't you start off by telling me where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and
oh, really?
Yeah.
What part of Cleveland? My family's from there originally. I was born in San Diego, but my family's all from Cleveland.
No way. Pepper Pike.
Pepper Pike. I'm not familiar. They're from like Elyria, Amherst area.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
That's crazy.
Yeah. How far is that from? I know they're like more like west, I think.
I don't even know how far that was. I didn't spend any time out there growing up, so I couldn't even tell you.
Oh, okay.
But I know the names of the locales, so there's at least some familiarity there.
Okay, right.
That's crazy, man. Yeah.
So Cleveland, how long were you there till?
Cleveland till I was 18, and then I packed up and I left. I went to school in the UK for a year at a place called Dulwich College, like one of the oldest schools in the world.
Wow.
which was nuts. And then came back and spent a couple years at the Naval Academy, and then left there, and then moved to New York, and kind of been just doing this ever since. And that was, man, what year would that have been? 2005 maybe, when I moved to New York City, something like that.
Right on.
2006 maybe. Yeah.
How did you get into music?
My parents bought me a piano, and I was 5 years old, and I've been playing ever since, and guitar kind of ever since I was, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, something like that.
Okay. Piano, though, was first instrument you played?
Piano was what I learned on, yeah.
And from there, like, were you doing recitals? Did you take lessons? Like, how did that work?
Yeah, and I hated every bit of it. A whole lot of practicing and a whole lot of recitals and a whole lot of structure and a whole lot of not permissible, writing. Like I wanted to take what was on the page and then just kind of riff on it. And my dad growing up, man, he was always listening to jazz.
Okay.
And so I fell in love with this free form, like the super present characteristic of being, of listening and playing jazz music, because it was always evolving and nothing necessarily was repeating. And music that we know and love, like so much of what we love about it is the repetition and the patterns and the stuff that we can anticipate coming and that will be coming if you get this AABA, kind of structure. And the thing with jazz was it was totally different, and it made me just so present and because I didn't know what was coming next. Mm-hmm. So that kind of coupled with all the country music that I grew up listening to, and some blues influence, like really, I think, kind of colored my my perception of music and led to a kind of a different, education in it. But yeah, man, I recitals and classical music, which I still have a deep appreciation for. But it wasn't what I wanted to play when I was a kid.
Sure. And were you like from there? You said you picked up guitar 10, 11 or so. Did you start playing bands? Like start writing songs?
You
Like,
know,
what was that?
I would have loved that, man. I would have loved to have been in a band growing up, but there was like, at least where I went to school, it seemed like there was a handful of, everybody played guitar.
Sure.
Right. So I could have started like a mariachi band or something maybe, because it was like
Yeah.
everyone's just playing guitar. I was like, well, we need a bass player, and no one wants to play bass. My dad, you know, he was in a band growing up, and you know, he played drums. He still plays drums. But I was like, it's not that cool. I don't want to play in a band with my dad, you know? So
Sure.
it ended up just being, you know, me and you know, I get together with some buddies and you know, it was more just like the early, I don't know, fledglings of, you know, these like writers rounds really.
Mm-hmm.
But no band for me ever really came to fruition, unfortunately.
Okay. Were you writing your own songs and performing at all by yourself in high school, or was that much later?
My whole life, man. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
My whole life.
What were those early shows, like open mic nights?
All kinds of stuff. I mean, there was, talent shows, open mic nights, any opportunity. I mean, actually, shout out to Karen Clark, who was my music teacher growing up, man. She, you know, she had, I don't know if it was once a week or whenever we had our music appreciation class in parochial school, but she would start off the class by saying, "Hey, you know, Rob, you got anything new for us? You want to play anything for the class, you know, this week?" And
Wow.
I'd get up and she'd give me, you know, 3 or 5 minutes or whatever, and I'd play something new on the piano that, you know, I've been working on that week. And yeah, it was really, really cool because, you know, I think so often, you know, we're taught structure, you know, more than anything else. And creativity is something that's not really taught, and it's not really, I don't know, man, it's not like widespread cultivated, you know, and that's something that is so important and allows us to express ourselves in such a healthy way, you know, if you put it into music or writing. And so often, you know, it was constantly like, you know, getting slapped in the back of the wrist, you know, for going off page. Like, that wasn't that run. That wasn't that chord progression. That's not what's written there. Mm-hmm. It's like, but that's okay, you know, because this is teaching us to think for ourselves and create. And she was a huge proponent of that. And, you know, if it hadn't been for her, I definitely wouldn't be doing what I am today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she kind of lets you guys go off the road a little bit when it comes to music.
She let me, you know,
Yeah,
there was nobody else in the class really that was doing that stuff. You know, but she fostered it. She supported it. So I owe a great deal of gratitude to her.
Yeah, that's amazing. With that, did you go to, you said you went to school in the UK. Did you go for music, or what'd you go to college for?
It was a funny story. I was, it was my senior year of high school at the, you know, with this all boys school. And then I was in this AP English class, and my headmaster was teaching the class, and it sounds crazy, but we were reading this book called Stand Before Your God. And it was by this guy, Paul Watkins. And he tells his story of growing up or being born in Connecticut, and then his parents dropping him off at the Dragon School in England for what they said was a sleepover party, and they'd pick him up in the morning, if I remember correctly. And that's not at all what the truth was. They dropped him off at boarding school, and then they just, you know, caught a plane back to America and left their kid there. He was traumatized, as, you know, any kid would be. Mm-hmm. But I'm reading his story and hearing his, you know, about his nightmares and all this stuff, and like, you know, how he's missing home. And then from the Dragon School, he ended up going to school at Eton College, where, you know, the royal family went to school. And
yeah,
it's like one of the oldest, best schools in the world. And I thought, man, this is kind of interesting. And it was a different approach to education that I thought, and I still think that our education system in America is way behind on, and it's a backwards way of teaching. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was the takeaway was, you know, that the English school system was based on this great books program, whereby you read these these classics. You read these books and you learn from the greats, as opposed to, because I'm terrible at math. And I think one of the reasons is because it's how we're taught. We're taught by examples. We're taught 2 + 2 = 4. We're not taught the premise really behind what we're actually doing. We're taught by, just examples. And so when I realized that there's another way of learning and teaching, I was like, man, you know what? I want to go out there and study out there just for a year, maybe, and see. And so I did, man. I went out there and I studied for a year, and no, I didn't study music. I studied whatever I wanted to because I knew I wasn't going to get any college credit whatsoever. And people were like, this is a royal waste of time for you. Like, they're like, go to Tufts, go to med school, go pursue what you've been, laying the groundwork to pursue for your entire life. And I thought, well, I still could do that, but why not, just press the brakes for a year and do something that I think would have some real life experience impact. And I'm so grateful that I did. I mean, I literally just studied whatever I wanted to. It was biology and theater and business. I studied business for a year because I had no idea how businesses worked. I still don't. But, it was just like, man, whatever. It was such a liberating approach because, I don't know about you and your story, but like, there's such pressure to like, oh, study this because it looks good in an application, and take this AP class because you're probably going to score a 4 or 5 on the, you know what I mean? It was like everything is so calculated, and it was just a nice year of kind of a reprieve.
And where you said you were studying theater and everything out there, because I know you're an actor as well. Was that something you had already were doing prior to moving out to the UK, or was that something you kind of picked up there?
Yeah, what's funny is my parents had got me into modeling and commercials and stuff like that from the time I was playing piano. So I was doing this stuff kind of concurrent with each other, from the time I was just a young kid. But what happened, this is crazy. So I was at Dulwich College, where I ended up going to school out there. And there was this my theater teacher said to everybody, hey, by the way, there's this new movie that they're auditioning for. Anybody who's interested can go and meet at this church or whatever it was where they're holding the auditions for this little new movie called Harry Potter. And I was like, yeah, not interested, whatever. I knew at this point, like I was already, I was going to go either to West Point or the Naval Academy at this point. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's just going to derail me from the path that I'm on. And I ended up talking to my folks, and they're like, hey, what's going on over there? And here they are in Ohio, and I'm all the way over in, outside of London. And there's a tremendous time difference. And I told him, I was like, oh yeah, Peter Jolly, my teacher, the other day said, yeah, you guys should go out and audition for this thing if you're interested. And I was like, yeah, not a chance, not interested. And they go, what? Like, are you crazy? What? Harry Potter? Like, go. I was like, oh, it's probably too late. And I was like, oh hell, you know what? Man, maybe they're right, And so I went out and went to audition for what I guess ended up being Robert Pattinson's role in that movie. But dude, it was crazy because I was like, you know what? Man, I still love this. I still enjoy it. And I ultimately ended up still going to the Naval Academy and still spending a couple years there. But there's this, like, I don't know, this seed that kept like getting replanted, over the course of these years. And then when I left the Naval Academy, there was like another production popped up, and they needed to find somebody who was, willing to play a stripper in the Full Monty. And I was like, okay. Like, I went out and I got that role, and then that led to another one. And then that led to Great Lakes Theater Festival offering me Ferdinand and The Tempest. And then that led to me auditioning for my first thing in New York City, and them offering me Agrippa and Florizel and Dumaine and Romeo, 4 shows in rep at the Blackfriars Playhouse in Stanton, Virginia, which then led to me moving to New York and passing on all those offers and just saying, you know, let's just go for this. And within 2 weeks, getting a Law and Order SVU episode to signing with like an amazing manager and agent in New York City. The first script that my manager gave me was Jesse Torrero's follow-up to Soul Plane, which I don't know if you remember that, but that was with Kevin Hart before he was Kevin Hart. I don't know why he didn't blow up a decade sooner, but I got to do this guy's second, you know, movie that followed that up. And it was an $8 million movie, and I was the lead. And I had no idea what I was doing, learning on the job. And then it was just nuts, man. And then MTV did their follow-up to High School Musical, and I'm the lead with Nina Dobrev. Took me out to Utah. We shot it out there a year later. That took me to LA, and then I've been on here ever since. And that's kind of the story.
And all while still writing and playing music?
All while writing and playing music, and probably, you know, just not probably, for sure, just hundreds and hundreds upon hundreds of just awful, awful songs. And, you know, just honing, you know, what, you know, I hoped would at some point in my life be considered, you know, a craft, my craft, you know, that something that, you know, that I could be proud about and put out music that, you know, was representative of what I wanted to put out. And, you know, that's long, it was a long process. And with, you know, the client list with Jennifer Love Hewitt on the Lifetime show, and then, you know, Mistresses on ABC, like all this stuff, they were all these shows, every movie, everything is such a blessing. 'Cause I enjoy it, and it's a great experience, and it's fun, and it, you know, pays the bills. But there was also this concurrent, like, sense of, oh man, like, I want to get in the studio. But so I think everything happens for a reason. And, you know, when Mistresses got canceled after the 4th season, it was my 2nd season. So I joined halfway through the run of the show. It was like such a blow to all of us. But it afforded me a little bit more time to kind of focus on what I'd been like backburnering for so many years, not out of, you know, laziness. It was not at all. It was just because I just didn't have the time, and, you know, the acting thing had been going so well, and, you know, now here we are. And I found myself in Nashville once a month under normal non-pandemic circumstances. And, you know, it's been cool, man. I've been getting tremendous support from Spotify, and, you know, even Apple's starting to feature me on their stuff. And, it's a really cool feeling to be able to, you know, write and release kind of on your own terms, and to see it, you know, being received, you know, not half bad.
Sure. And last year you put out your debut. Was that Closer as your debut EP? Yeah. Closer. The single came out ACM weekend last year, April. Wow. Yeah. And then after, like, tell me about the recording process on that record. You said, did you record that in Nashville? Another crazy thing. Like, here I am. I've done now a few shows with my buddy Riley Smith, and we were at the finale party for our show, Frequency, a CW show that we had done a few years ago. And he played me some of his music, and I was like, dude, this is really good. Like, where'd you do this? Who produced this? Like, what? And he goes, you got to meet my producer. Flew to Nashville, met with Kevin Leach, and it was like day 2, I think, of our songwriting week. And we wrote Closer. It was me and Kevin and Ryan Rossabo. And we wrote this song. And I just knew, like, in that moment, I'm like, all right, this is the song that I'm going to lead with when I start to release my music. And that night I had gone home back to my Airbnb and listened to this, came across this song, fell in love with it. And I was like, I don't know why this isn't a huge Blake Shelton hit. Who's this dude singing it? Text my producer in the middle of the night. He goes, that's J. Michael Harder, who's the brother of Scott, who we wrote with yesterday. I could probably have him come into town and see if he wants to write. And the next day he did. Wow. He came in and we wrote with no lines the next day.
which was my second song that I released in like May or something of last year. And then it caught wind in the UK, and all of a sudden it was like top 10 best songs of 2019 so far, with Midland and Jennifer Nettles and like all these other like amazing people.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, fast forward 6-8 months, and I kind of mustered up the courage to ask Mike if he would be willing to let me recut his song, Don't Give Up on Me, and release it as you know, one of mine. And they were all on board, and that's kind of become the song now that, man, it's literally as we speak right now, it's at number 2 on New Boots. You know, Fresh Finds, and it was on Next from Nashville and New Music Nashville and Breakout Country, right? I mean, all these playlists, like just insanity. And it's just nuts. It's just nuts how it's all, you know, it's just crazy.
Yeah, totally. And have you been able to, did you perform any of those songs out? Were you able to play it all, like live, or?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, last year was still kind of busy for me on the acting side, but
sure.
Yeah. I mean, I played over at, there was a festival in Arizona that Calf Country, out there puts on every year, and called the Big Sting, and you know, got to travel out there and play, and was able to open for John Langston and Fillmore, up in Northern California. So man, it's been cool. I played, was it last year? I played the Boots on Stage kind of stagecoach adjacent show with Spencer Crandall, and so there's like a bunch of different stuff, and then there was more stuff lined up, obviously, this year. But you know, as we have learned, it was, you know, January, February, lockdown, December. So
sure. Wow. Well, tell me about, since quarantine started, you've been doing the Songs from the Sofa, and that's a 4-part project.
It's a 4-part project, literally just self-produced, from my couch in my house here in LA, and super stripped down, and really there's like no production. It's either just me and the guitar and vocal, and my buddy Smith Curry maybe playing some steel or dobro. And I just kind of wanted to give and just I don't know, reflect on, you know, kind of what was going through my mind at the beginning of this crazy lockdown, and the stuff that what I was feeling wasn't happy, you know, go to the bar, drinking songs. It was a little more somber. So yeah, those, I think, 3 of those songs have already come out. And then the 4th comes out October 9th, which will wrap up that EP, Songs from the Sofa Quarantine Project is what I'm calling it. You know, I got a song that, Marvelous Life, that comes out on the 9th of next month. And that one is about suicide. My producer on my Western, that came out over the summer, with Val Kilmer, my producer took his own life in January, and, you know, we had all these plans to work together more, and he wanted me to score his next 3 documentaries and all this stuff. And that was a really big blow. You know, and then just kind of just looking at the news, man, and seeing like the Carolyn Flack stuff, and like, you know, there were so many suicides from that show that I thought, man, you know, I don't like to get in the midst of politics. So I was like, you know, I feel moved to write a song that, you know, is kind of the social commentary on the times. And, that song comes out the 9th. And it's definitely not anything you're going to hear on the radio, and it's, you know, but it's something real. And I think that it's, you know, it's important. So, yeah.
So you're releasing one song at a time, which will become a 4-song EP, Songs from the Sofa.
Yeah, 3 of those songs are already out. The 4th drops on the 9th, and then kind of concurrent with that, which, you know, it's a heck of a lot of music. But I got another song that comes out on Friday that I wrote with Randy Owen's son Heath from Alabama, that I'm really, really stoked about. And the reason I did that and why there's so much music coming out is because I didn't want to just release something that was, I won't say dark, but heavy and, you know, that had real gravity to it. and then just let it be out there in the frequencies of the world for a month or 6 weeks. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to put it out, and then I'll buttress that with, something lighter, and then come back with a more somber song, and then, respond with something lighter and more fun and hopeful. That's important.
So you have the songs from the couch, which are songs that you recorded and everything during this, right? During quarantine, from your house, just you and acoustic guitar.
Yeah, and then some steel or dobro, like I said, kind of overdubbed. Yeah.
And then this new song that you said is coming out, is that like a full production, or is that also something you guys did during quarantine?
It's full production, and this is stuff that like I've been writing and recording over the last couple of years that now is in the queue and just starting to come out. It's called Length of the Song, and it kind of tells the story and the importance of a song and how much a 3-minute song can affect you. How much it could change your life. I'm really, really excited for that. That comes out Friday.
Awesome. And is that going to be part of like a record later down the line, or is it just you're just doing singles for now?
It's a good question. I think there's so much material, and like I literally was in Nashville 2 weeks ago, laying down 12 new vocals on a new song. So
wow,
there's so much stuff upcoming. I already have, I think, probably almost halfway through next year's releases already delivered to the DSPs. So there's so much stuff that I think if I were to release one song a month, it would almost like just go into, 2022. So I think by that mere fact of volume, like I'm going to have to put together an album.
Sure. That's cool though. At least, it's better to have more than not enough. I could imagine.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, cool. What about like live streaming or any of that stuff? Are you doing anything like that for your fans online?
Yeah, well, I was doing a whole bunch of it in the beginning of lockdown. I've been so crazed lately. I just got back from Utah. I was doing a movie with Marie Osmond, a Christmas movie for Lifetime that'll actually come out this holiday season.
Oh, cool.
I just got back from shooting that. I'm just about to gear up to go to October, to go to Colorado next month for a show. I do have some live stream stuff coming up. Still kind of trying to sort through that stuff. I know that I'm doing one for the North Hollywood Homeless Alliance, which is coming up early next month, and that will be a live stream as part of the NoHo Alliance event, which I'm really, really proud to be a part of. And there's a couple other things too, which I'll be announcing hopefully soon on my socials. But yeah, man, it's just been nuts. Like, here we are in such unprecedented times, and I think it's so easy to fall into, like, when you don't have a routine, to kind of just lose sight of yourself and what's to come, and when every day feels like it's just day. Like it was Monday the other day, and I thought it was Saturday. I was like, you start to like lose perspective. So, I think it's important we take advantage of that and keep creating and keep going forward. And that's kind of what this year's been. At least for me, making the best of a very crazy time.
Totally. I know. Hopefully sooner than later they get this thing figured out and everybody can go back to the normal, I guess.
To the normal, I know. What's that going to even look like? CDC came out today and said, they reversed their droplet 6 feet thing. Like, so I don't even know. It's nuts.
Yeah, I have no idea, dude. But yeah. Well, Rob, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I really appreciate it.
Man, thank you.
Yeah, I have one more question. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Do it. Just do it. And trust your gut. Listen to your gut. The truth. That's where the truth is. And it's right. It's not. even if people tell you one thing, just get used to listening to that, and get used to being as comfortable as you can be in that uncomfortability. Whether it's performing live, whether it's writing, whether it's just sharing what you've written with people, with friends, even to your dog or cat or fish or whatever. Like, if there's uncomfortability there, like, get as comfortable with that uncomfortability as possible, and just trust your gut.